Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitan Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namaha Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We are all very excited to hear Srila Prabhupada's stories, Srila Prabhupada's life, the different things that he did, the anecdotes in his life are full of spiritual instruction and significance. So let's talk about a few stories today. These are all stories in the 1972 mostly, and in connection with Srila Prabhupada's visit to Nairobi. Prabhupada was in Bombay, and it was decided that he was going to visit Nairobi. And it was going to be a 2 weeks visit. Bombay to Nairobi and back. Generally, when Srila Prabhupada traveled, there would be his secretary traveling with him. There would be his assistant who will take care of cooking and such things. And there would be a third person, a Sanskrit scholar like Pradyumna, who would help him to go on with the translation of and the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Since Srila Prabhupada was just going to Nairobi and come back to Bombay, it was decided that just one devotee will travel with him. And that one devotee who would travel with him was supposed to be an able-bodied, strong-bodied American disciple, Madhudvisha Swami. There was a reason why he was chosen to be with Prabhupada. Prabhupada was going to Nairobi to install deities of Radha and Krishna. But somehow, when those deities were bought from Jaipur and shipped to Nairobi, and when they opened the cargo and they found that, unfortunately, the soft marble deities had cracked. And so they had to get another set of deities. And Madhudvisha Swami was in Jaipur, and so he quickly ran around, visited a few places where these marble deities are made, and got hold of about 3.5 feet high Radha Krishna deities, and they were packed Srila Prabhupada. These deities were supposed to go to Nairobi. So it was just two of them, Srila Prabhupada and Madhudvisha Swami, traveling to Nairobi. And they had decided to carry the deities with them in the cabin, not any packaged or any such thing, checked in baggage or anything. So Srila Prabhupada was heading towards the aircraft, and Madhudvisha Swami, he carried the deity one at a time. And he had to go all the way, all the immigration, customs and clearance and all of that. And then he had to lift it up, carry it up the stairs to the aircraft. And Prabhupada sat there, and in front of him, he placed one of the deities. And then he came back all the way and he had to pick up another deity and go through the same thing and carry all by himself. And he took the second deity, sat next to Prabhupada, put the deity. It was quite a tiring experience for Madhudvisha Swami. And then the aircraft took off and they were going to fly over the Indian Ocean. And then Srila Prabhupada looked at Madhudvisha Swami and asked him, "Are you ready to fight?" Madhudvisha Swami was taken aback. Srila Prabhupada, "Fight, Srila Prabhupada? What do you mean? What's that?" And then Prabhupada said, "Do like this. You become a Mayavadi and I'll be a devotee and let's have an argument." Mayavadi means an impersonalist, somebody who considers that ultimately the Supreme God, ultimate absolute truth is not personal. Whereas a devotee of Krishna, from the Bhagavad Gita we understand that absolute truth is person, Krishna. And the impersonalists are those who think that no, the absolute truth is not a person, but it is some kind of a indistinguishable, featureless, attribute-less, all-pervading, some kind of a energy, and that is the absolute truth. That's the argument, the impersonal. That's another school of thought in our country. And so Srila Prabhupada said, "You become that impersonalist and I'll be a devotee and you put arguments and then let's see." And then Madhudvisha Swami was thinking, "Oh my God, I have to become an impersonalist and argue with Prabhupada." But anyway, he had heard a lot of arguments from Srila Prabhupada's instructions. So he said, "All right, Srila Prabhupada." And then he took on the position of an impersonalist and he started arguing. And then Prabhupada defeated him. One argument, another argument, another argument. And Madhudvisha Swami was finished. Then Srila Prabhupada said, "Okay, you become a devotee and I will become an impersonalist and let's argue." And then Madhudvisha Swami was happy. Now I know I'm a devotee after all. I know all the arguments. And so Srila Prabhupada took the position of an impersonalist and Madhudvisha started giving different arguments back and forth, back and forth. And after a few minutes of this debate going on, Srila Prabhupada had fully crushed and defeated Madhudvisha Swami with all his arguments. And then he was saying, "Prabhupada, what shall we do?" Then Prabhupada said, "A devotee, a preacher, has to be an expert. He must know the arguments, the position of his opponents, and he must be so well versed that he can defeat the opponent's views." And Prabhupada also said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to do this. So like this, actually, Srila Prabhupada was training his disciples. How? So that they become well versed in philosophy, they become well versed in and they become convinced about Krishna consciousness and knowing all the opponent's arguments and how to debate against those arguments. These are one of the wonderful things that Srila Prabhupada had just 11 years to build this institution, a worldwide institution, and train his devotees. And in that short time, every occasion Prabhupada had, he would engage and train his disciples like we see here. Madhudvisha Swami was a sannyasi, was a responsible person, had a whole leadership position, and Prabhupada wanted him to become stronger in understanding. So now the flight landed in Nairobi, and wherever Srila Prabhupada would go, there would be a reception for Prabhupada. This is in 1972. Already ISKCON had grown to a certain extent, and devotees had begun to realize and appreciate the position of Srila Prabhupada as an acharya, a pure representative from India, a pure devotee of Krishna. So there would be wonderful kirtans and garlands and all of that kind of a reception wherever Srila Prabhupada would go. And now Prabhupada landed in Nairobi, and he was alone. He was with Madhudvisha Swami alone. And once again, he had to carry one deity at a time, all alone, and then go through all the customs and all that, the baggage and everything, and then go back and then get the other deity back and forth. Prabhupada was patiently waiting, and then they had their bags, and they had the deities collected, brought them, and they came out of the airport, and there was nobody to receive them. So Prabhupada was waiting patiently, and Madhudvisha had put the bags and the deities, and they were looking around what to do, and there was no one to receive Prabhupada. And the temple president in Nairobi was Brahmananda Swami. So he was trying to call him. You know, those days there was no mobile or anything. You have to go to the airport, and in a place like Nairobi, it must not have been so easy. And just then, one Indian gentleman, a Hindu gentleman, shows up there, and he says, "Swamiji, are you not Bhaktivedanta Swami?" And he said, "Yes." And then, looks like nobody has come to take you. I know the temple. Shall I take you to the temple? And then Prabhupada started talking to him nicely, and he said, okay. And then they accepted. And then he drove his car, put all the bags and the deities, and Srila Prabhupada and Madhudvisha Swami and all the deities, and this Indian gentleman drove them. He had the address somehow, and he drove them to the ISKCON temple at Nairobi. And then they got off the car, and they pressed the bell. The door was locked, the temple. Looks like no one is thinking about Prabhupada coming there. And they pressed the bell, and the door opens. And Brahmananda Swami was there, and he was not properly dressed, and he was just wearing a towel around him. And he saw Srila Prabhupada, and he fell down and paid his obeisance and said, "Prabhupada, you were supposed to come tomorrow." And Srila Prabhupada, someone, then Prabhupada said, "See, again they got it wrong." And Prabhupada was very patient, and somehow some misinformation, and they thought that he was going to come next day. And Prabhupada reached there, and then Prabhupada asked, "So where shall I stay? Where have you made arrangements for me?" And they had not made any arrangements. They were still getting the temple ready, Prabhupada's quarters ready, painting was going on, cleaning was going on, carpentry work is going on, and deities are coming. So they know the deity installation was supposed to happen. The altar work is going, you can imagine, till the last minute, a lot of things were happening. And then they took him to the room, which was not really a room, just a bare four walls. And that's where Prabhupada had to stay. And Prabhupada was very, very patient and tolerant, and he just waited. And it took a few minutes. All the devotees ran around, got his desk, got his bed, got different things, and arranged the room. And that's how Prabhupada was received, and he got involved in the different activities of the temple. Actually, Prabhupada had gone to Nairobi about 4 months before. And after that, once again, Prabhupada was going. There was actually a very special reason why in 1972, just after 4 months, for this 2 weeks, Prabhupada went to Nairobi. One reason was to install the deities. There was another important reason why Srila Prabhupada went there. I won't take that topic today. I'll keep it for another occasion. So Prabhupada and the devotees were very young. In his first visit also, Srila Prabhupada had said, because in Nairobi there are a lot of Indians, and it was quite easy for the temple president Brahmananda Swami to get in touch with a lot of Indians. And Indians are pious, and mostly they would all be Gujaratis or maybe Marwaris. and very pious and devoted people. And so it was quite easy to mix with them, and they would invite the devotees to do kirtan, or they would give nice prasadam and all of that. It was quite easy. But Prabhupada was not very happy. He said, you should preach to the local Africans. So that's what Krishna consciousness movement is, right? Lord Chaitanya's order, Bhaktivedanta Thakur's order, was Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's order was to preach all over the world, to the native people, not to the Indians alone. So Prabhupada was encouraging Brahmananda Swami to preach to the Africans, and then they had done that. They would do kirtans and all of those kind of things had done, and a few Africans had become devotees, but they were, you can imagine, they were so raw, not at all trained, not very familiar with philosophy, and so the community, local people didn't know what was going on. They are seeing one American sannyasi, white man, and then he's singing, dancing, and they are going to the parks, and then a few Africans have joined them. It was like that kind of a situation. So Prabhupada got into his normal routine as soon as he was there, next 1 or 2 days. And then Prabhupada had his, in the afternoon, Prabhupada would have a bath after his massage and such things. And then there would be a fresh set of clothes, neatly ironed for Prabhupada to wear. So when Prabhupada came there and he found the fresh set of clothes were not there. So he called for Brahmananda Swami, and then Brahmananda Swami ran around and trying to figure out what happened to Prabhupada's ironed clothes, fresh set of clothes. And then he comes back to Srila Prabhupada and says, Srila Prabhupada, I just learned that your clothes were washed and put out for drying in the open air, and looks like somebody in the neighborhood, they have come and stolen all your clothes. And so Prabhupada was, disappointed to hear this, and then they ran around and they got another set of clothes, and then Prabhupada had those clothes. And then, so that evening, they had arranged a program in the temple. Some number of devotees, maybe about hundreds of them, had gathered. Many of them local Africans, and maybe a few Indians. So Prabhupada came to the temple hall. It was, and then the deities were not yet installed, and deities are going to be installed. And Prabhupada spoke, and then he did the kirtan, and then he started speaking, and there was these hundreds of people there. And then when Prabhupada was speaking, now and then he was looking at the audience, and suddenly he found one local African person wearing Srila Prabhupada's kurta, neatly ironed kurta. This person was wearing. And then Prabhupada was surprised, but then he continued talking. And then after around in the crowd, he found another African somewhere sitting in the crowd wearing his top piece, another top piece of Prabhupada's dress, and he was wearing that also in some way. And then he found another person wearing Prabhupada's dhoti. So Prabhupada spotted all these things, but then he didn't interrupt, and then he just continued with the talk. And then at the end of the talk, Srila Prabhupada came to his quarters, and then he told Brahmananda Swami that this is what I found some of them wearing. So Brahmananda Swami was really angry. He said, went out, found those 3 of them, got hold of them. I don't know what he did with them. We don't have information. And got hold of, retrieved all the clothes and came back to Srila Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, we got back all your clothes. And Prabhupada just heard that and he was just laughing. He didn't get any upset or anything. And so Prabhupada was very, very tolerant. He was seeing that how in a new continent, a new culture, a new kind of people, that he's come to give them Krishna consciousness. And look at the immense compassion and patience and tolerance of Srila Prabhupada. And he just accepted all these things. The next thing was Of course, these were just some outsiders, who maybe neighbors or somebody who had stolen and given away the clothes to someone, and somebody got it. And some things must have happened. And then another thing that Srila Prabhupada found was that the devotees were completely untrained in cooking or any such thing. So they made some kind of a preparation with maize, white maize, African white maize, and then they brought that one. And then Prabhupada tasted that and he said, "This looks like pig food." And then devotees got scared. No, Prabhupada didn't like this food. They ran back and they did something else with some chickpeas, and then they brought that one. And then Prabhupada tasted that, ate that one. He said, this is suitable for horses. And devotees became even more nervous. So Prabhupada's not happy. And then the temple commander of the temple, so he said, "Srila Prabhupada, I'll do something." And then he ran around, he cut some vegetables, cooked them, and then didn't put spice or wrong spice or something. And then he brought that. And then Prabhupada tasted that, and he said, "This looks like dog food." So devotees were devastated. They didn't know what to do. And then Prabhupada said, "Don't worry." And then he went into the kitchen himself, and about 10 devotees got around, and he started directing them. Prabhupada started cooking, and then in a short while he had made rotis, dal, sabji, and all of those nice preparations, and he made for all the devotees and served them. So like this, even in a new place, like in a new continent like Africa, Prabhupada had to, when he went there, he had to teach them everything. Very patient, amazing Acharya, isn't it? And then the next few days that he was there, the 2 weeks that he was there were again occasions where his clothes would get stolen from the clothes line, and the food was not up to the quality, and Prabhupada had to again and again train them and teach them. This went on. And Prabhupada realized that actually these devotees are very untrained, they're very new, culturally they're not familiar with Krishna consciousness, they're just beginning to understand what is Guru, what is disciple, who is Krishna, and all of that. So one morning walk, Prabhupada was going with Brahmananda Swami and a few other devotees, and one African devotee who was just maybe a few months old devotee. And then he asked Srila Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, can devotees of Krishna, can we get married?" And Prabhupada said, "Yes, you can get married if you wish." And then it went on. And then the devotee there, he was describing the African culture. And then he said, "Srila Prabhupada, in Africa, if a man has to get married, he has to give money to the girl's bride's father." And so Prabhupada was hearing all those things. It's like the opposite of a dowry system in India, right? In a dowry system, the bride's father has to give money to the bridegroom. And here it's just the reverse, opposite of this. And so Prabhupada was understanding all of those things. And then after a little while of discussion on that, then that African devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, "Srila Prabhupada, now that I am surrendered and I have become a devotee of the temple, and if I have to get married, will you give me money to marry?" And so Prabhupada was thinking, look at this, a disciple. He is thinking that Guru has to give money to get him married. What is this understanding? But Prabhupada was very tolerant. He was understanding. They were very new. They don't know Krishna conscious culture. So Prabhupada said, "Don't worry now. You be a good devotee. And then when you want to marry, you let me know. I'll get you a very nice American girl to marry you." And that's how the discussion ended. So Srila Prabhupada was seeing that how these devotees require a lot of training, exposure, and he was very patient with them and allowing them to go through all these kind of questions and such things. Then a few days passed by, and then there was going to be the installation of the Radha Krishna deities. And Srila Prabhupada called this Nairobi temple Kirata Shuddhi. That's the name he gave to the Nairobi ISKCON temple. The word Kirata comes from the Srimad-Bhagavatam, where Shukadev Goswami offers his prayers before he begins to speak. Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Shumbha Yavana Kasadaya Yenyecha Papa Yadapashrayashraya Shuddhyanti Tasmai Prabhavishnave Namaha. This verse talks about how Vishnu, Prabhavishnave, Vishnu is so powerful. And one who takes shelter of Vishnu, a devotee of Vishnu, he also is very powerful and especially has the influence of purifying others. Who are the others? Kirata, Hunandra, Pulinda, Pulkasha, Abhira, Shumbha, Yavana, Kasadaya. It gives a long list of different tribes, different people. This is 5,000 years ago. At that time, the different geographies in the world, different aborigines. Kirata refers to aborigines and native people of different parts of the world. All of them who are generally engaged in sinful activities. Yenyecha papa yadapashraya shuddhyanti tasmai prabhavishnave namaha. If they take shelter of a devotee of Krishna, they become purified. So that was the prayer that Shukadev Goswami had offered in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Taking that from that verse, Prabhupada coined this word, Kirata Shuddhi. This is a temple which is going to purify the aborigines, the native people from the continent. So Radha Krishna deities were installed and there was a ceremony and all of that happened. And then Prabhupada taught them how to do the worship and how to dress the deity and all of that. The next day, Srila Prabhupada comes to the temple hall and he comes and sees the altar and the deities are missing from the altar. You know, it's a very serious thing. Radha Krishna deities have to be up there and he has made the arrangements and installed them. And then he looks around and Srila Prabhupada finds Krishna is down on the floor on one side and Radharani is on another side and both of them, and then he looks around and he calls for the pujaris and the pujari comes and then he's saying, what happened? Why did you remove the deities from the altar? And then the devotee is not able to properly answer. He says, maybe Prabhupada, I forgot. I was in a rush or something. And then Prabhupada, why did you put them 10 miles away? You are there. Radha and Krishna should not be separated like that. And then he put them back and then he said, oh, sorry, Srila Prabhupada, we'll take care, and then put the deities back. So you can imagine the kind of situation. They didn't know about anything about deity worship, these Africans. And there, Prabhupada is establishing a Krishna temple, Radha Krishna temple, giving them Krishna consciousness and teaching them all the different aspects of Krishna conscious culture. It's such an amazing personality, an acharya going from continent to continent, country to country, city to city, establishing Krishna consciousness. And so the 2 weeks passed. There were a few more public programs. I will skip those details. And then Srila Prabhupada finishes all of those things and then he comes back to Bombay. So, in fact, Prabhupada made many visits to Nairobi and a few other places, South Africa, all of that also. So, another occasion when Prabhupada had gone to Nairobi and then he returned. And it was at this time, there was a lot of hectic traveling. Prabhupada used to travel, go to one place, another city. And so Prabhupada came to Nairobi and then he came back from Nairobi to Bombay. And this time he had few disciples with him as his secretary and assistant and all of that. So when they landed, and you should know that Prabhupada was very meticulous in his planning, travel, baggage, packing, and passport. Prabhupada was very careful and well planned in all these things. And then he had trained his disciples also. His secretary were also supposed to be very careful in all these things. And so when they landed in Bombay, and the immigration officer asked Srila Prabhupada, where is your yellow fever certificate? You know, when you come from an African country, I think even now that rule exists in our country, you must have an yellow fever certificate. And that means, that shows that you have had the vaccine and all of that. And the devotee realized that, it was Shyam Sundar Das. He realized that the yellow fever certificate was not packed. And he was full of anxiety. He looked at Prabhupada. Prabhupada was not aware. He was also wondering whether his secretary had packed everything. And then he looked at Prabhupada. Prabhupada had that kind of a stern, serious look. And then he searched around and then didn't have the certificate. And then he told the man that no, Prabhupada has done all those things, but today we are not carrying the thing. Please let us go. And then the man said, no, come over here. And then he started talking to him. He said, nothing doing. If you don't have the certificate, you have to be quarantined for 15 days. And then Shyam Sundar, he didn't want to look at Prabhupada. You don't know what's going on in Prabhupada's mind. Maybe he's so furious, so angry he must be at me. What kind of a secretary, or how you have messed up my schedule, my travel, everything. What's going to happen? And then he kept on persisting with the Indian officer, trying to convince him, ranting and raving and giving this reason, that reason, all kinds of. And then that man said, just you see, don't tell me all these things. Even if Prime Minister Indira Gandhi comes now like this from Africa without a yellow certificate, she will be quarantined. So don't ask for any exemption. And so he came back to Srila Prabhupada and said, Srila Prabhupada, I'm sorry, we are not carrying your yellow fever certificate. And he didn't know what Prabhupada is going to say. He's going to get angry, shout at him, scream at him. And he was in anticipation, waiting to see Prabhupada's response. And Prabhupada said, just heard that. And then he smiled and he said, all right, let's take rest for 15 days. And he was relieved. At least Prabhupada was not angry. Of course, I messed up his schedule and all of that. And then they were put in a hospital in Bombay, just near the airport. And then it was like a prison. You're caged in and you can't come out and all those kind of things. But Prabhupada was very happy. He was relaxed. He wanted to relax for some time. And a lot of pending correspondence had accumulated. He wanted to answer all those mails. And then he got into his normal schedule. And he was translating. A lot of translation was happening. So Prabhupada was very happy. 10 days it went on, translation, correspondence, answering, typing, his secretary typing all the letters, everything went on. And then after 10 days or 11 days, Prabhupada called Shyam Sundar and said, you call Jayapataka Swami in Calcutta, in my desk, on the right side, tell him to open the drawer, the yellow fever certificate is there. And he said, oh my God, it is there. All right, Srila Prabhupada. He went out and called. And then next day, Jayapataka Swami flew from Calcutta, brought the yellow fever certificate. Actually, Prabhupada knew the certificate is there. Just that Prabhupada wanted to catch up. He wanted to take a little rest, catch up on the translation, catch up on the correspondence. And like this. And then after 11th day, 12th day, just about one day before 15 days, they showed the certificate, and then they came out, and then they came back to the temple. So, like this, Srila Prabhupada had wonderful pastimes with his devotees, and All of these pastimes are very, very highly instructive and very wonderful pastimes. Thanks. Hare Krishna. Namaste. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.